Hey brewers and beer lovers, welcome back to the garage. Just here to do a quick video about kegs. Kegs? Yes, I can speak. But I purchased my first set of kegs. These are Pinlock 5-gallon kegs. And then later on, I decided that I wanted to add some smaller 2.5-gallon kegs in case I did a small batch or wanted to split a 5-gallon batch into multiple kegs to do different like oak cubes or dry hop in the keg, or just do fun stuff. But I was kind of horrified when I went online and looked at the prices, and the price for new 2.5-gallon kegs was like almost the same as for a brand new 5-gallon keg. And it didn't make sense to me at first. And so over time, I've talked to people who have sold different products and stuff, and like what I came to understand is that even though this keg is half the size of this keg, the amount of labor required to make this keg is almost the same as the amount of labor it takes to make a 5-gallon keg. And so like it took me a while to really let that sink in, but like I said, this is a pin lock and this is a ball lock, but on the top portion you can see, like on both kegs, there's still this raised area where the lid attaches. There's still this precision machinery for the posts to screw onto. There's also the lid is shaped to raise up these sides here and here for the threads for the posts. And then the bottom is dished out on so that everything comes down to the bottom, and then there's like you can see this bump, and that is because inside there's a hole where the dip tube goes, and that's gotta be the right size to allow that to be the lowest point so that all of the liquid drains to the where the dip tube is, so that it can be forced out and poured into your glass. And so whether you're talking about a 5-gallon keg or a 2.5-gallon keg, the top and the bottom on both sizes are basically identical. And so all of that complex machining is the same regardless of size. And then if you look, you can see the welds where the top and the bottom are attached. And then there's one long seam where this piece of just a sheet of stainless steel has been bent, and then that seam right here also needs to be welded. So all of the labor, the only difference in the cost of labor is this seam on this keg is 7 3/4 inches long, and the seam on this keg is 15 1/4 inches long. And so there's an extra 7.5 inches of welding and then an extra 7.5 inches of sheet stainless steel, which, like, yes, stainless steel is kind of expensive, but it's not, especially a company that's making hundreds or thousands of kegs is getting that stainless steel at a discounted price. So the price difference for materials is basically negligible, and the fact that the only difference in labor is that extra 7.5 inches of welding along the seam basically means this keg and this keg cost almost the exact same amount to produce. And so that's why when you look at new kegs, I just looked at Adventures in Homebrewing, and they have brand new ball lock kegs in 5 gallon, 3 gallon, 2.5 gallon, and 1.75 gallon sizes. And they're all exactly the same price normally. Right now, as of New Year's Eve 2020, there was one size that the sale price was $5 lower, and I think it was the 3 gallons, but I don't remember off the top of my head. I should have written that down. But if you look at the link below, and you go to Adventures in Homebrewing and look at the keg prices, the regular price for all 4 of those different sizes is the exact same. So, you know, when you're looking at kegs, if you're like I was and you get confused on the price difference and why there isn't a price difference, that's why. It's like, even though the kegs are slightly larger or smaller, the amount of labor and materials is almost the same. And so that's why, that's why there's very little or no price difference. So my recommendation is, if you want a 2.5 gallon keg, just go buy it, because the companies that make gear for us homebrewers, they got to pay the bills too, and don't worry about whether it's a good deal because this is only half the size. Just buy the size you need for what you want to accomplish and get after it and brew up an adventure.